Well, it's sad but true that this is the final video in the series on the building of the Funky AR. It's kind of sad in a way, but all good things must come to an end. I know some of you are thinking, thank God, maybe he'll move on. But what I did was actually make a list of all of the parts. I actually went back through all of my emails and all of my invoices and made a parts list of all the individual parts that I ordered. But one of my goals when I started this was to actually try to understand all of the parts that go into an AR. And it is quite amazing when you actually just briefly look over the amount of parts that are in a rifle like this. You just don't realize it when you're first glancing at it. I did receive my bolt, and I wanted to thank T&N Outdoors at 9 again for coming down to the shoot. He actually let me borrow a bolt out of his AR because mine just came today, 2 days late, 2 or 3 days late, and also my charging handle. And I'll actually go over the specifics of these when I go over the parts list. So for now, I just want to actually put it in. I haven't actually put it in yet. So what I'm going to do is see if I can do this on camera without being too disruptive. Okay, so that's really not that big of a deal, obviously. It just needs to be lubed a little bit, but there we go. Now, let's put her back together.
There we go.
Alright, there she is. One complete, beautiful machine. Now, I know I'm a bad boy, but I haven't cleaned it yet since our 500-yard shoot, but she still looks good, and I'm going to clean her next after this video. I noticed I got one little scratch that day. It was right here. I think what I'm going to end up doing is maybe putting a flat black Duracoat over the whole thing, because this is kind of an older part. This is a newer barrel, and you can see all the finishes don't exactly match, and they're pretty good, but that may be the next project for the Funky AR, I'm not sure. But what I wanted to do next was just try to figure out how to show these parts in the final cost and my final thoughts. So let me get this set up and I'll see what I can do. Okay, so I thought I would just go over the parts list, and what I'm going to do is provide a link to this parts list as a PDF file, that'll show the parts and the cost. Let's just start from the beginning. My first, obviously my first part was the stripped lower, and I'm really happy with that Palomino State Armory. I started to say arms. Palomino State Armory lower. It's really seems to have done a good job so far, and I'm happy with that. And it was only $80 basically, with $10 shipping and handling. And I did pay a $35 transfer fee You may end up paying a little more than that, I'm not sure. That was through my rifle club. So the total on the lower with shipping and handling was $124.95. On the lower parts kit, now again, I wanted to buy everything in parts stripped down so I would have the experience of putting them together. So I bought a DPMS lower parts kit, and I got that on Gunbroker, basically for $52, $5, shipping and handling plus $47. Okay, where was I? I was just finishing up the lower parts kit. Okay, so my next purchase was the wood foregrip and buttstock and pistol grip, and I got that from off of a fella on Gunbroker, and it's an Appleseed style wood stock, and you can Google that. It's pretty neat. I paid $150. I bid, that was my bid, and I had to pay a $30 shipping and handling, which I thought was a little high. But anyway, $180 for the wood stock. I guess it's okay. But I'm really happy with that. The only thing you need to watch out for on these wood stock kits is the little wood ring that is behind this metal ring here that accepts the hand guards is a little delicate, so you can't really go into taking these on and off a lot. So once they're kind of on there, they're kind of there for a while. Same thing up here. What I may end up doing is making a groove with my Dremel or a router for these rings to go into the actual wood instead of them being a raised piece that sticks out that can break off easily. I may actually just put a little groove in there so that this can go into it. But other than that, I'm really happy. Okay, the next purchase that I made was the carry handle, and it is a detachable carry handle. The reason I did this is because I love the A2 style, and I love open sights. As you saw in the video, I was shooting 500 yards open sights. Of course, it hadn't been sighted in, so I was getting close, but no cigar. But anyway, I've got this detachable carry handle that'll satisfy my need or want for open sights. But I can always detach this if I decide I want to get an optic for it, and I would recommend that. I was going to get a receiver, an upper with a built-in handle, but I think that's a more wise decision to get a detachable handle. Okay, so the next item I had was the Spikes Tactical Forged upper, and you can see right here it says Blim for blemish. I actually got this for a really good price. I'm not sure where the blemish is. It's somewhere on here, but it doesn't matter. It works. And I actually got that for $64.95, which I thought was a really good price. So you can shop around and find these things like this. But after the upper receiver, for some reason I went right into buying these other parts. Like I bought some gun grease. Oh, I know what I was trying to do. I was trying to prepare for the barrel assembly. So I bought this gun grease, which was instrumental in putting the barrel nut onto the upper receiver, which it's an anti-seize gun grease, and it'll keep the heat from seizing those threads together to the upper. That's what it's advertised for anyway. Then I got the crush washer. Let's see, that says torque wrench. That's supposed to be, what I just realized is that torque wrench was supposed to be taken out and put down here under tools. I'll have to fix that because what I was trying to do is take the tools out of the cost factor. So the total is going to be closer to $1,100. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. I meant to take that tool out. I also meant to take this wrench out. That's crazy. So you can see the the torque wrench was 44 bucks, and so that's 60 bucks right there. So yeah, we're looking at more like $1,100 on the total. Let's see, from Rock River Arms. Oh, by the way, I got that little batch from Midway USA. And what I would do is, a lot of these, you'll notice that these are from a lot of different suppliers. I would go to order this stuff and it would be, back ordered or out of stock. And that's one thing, let me warn you about, and you probably already know about this, but when you go to order this stuff, I called these people. And I had a couple of people that were dishonest and actually back ordered parts, like my bolt carrier group and my charging handle, where they back ordered it and they were dishonest to me. They told me it was going to ship and it never did, and I actually wasn't able to shoot my entire rifle at the 500-yard shoot because of that. So anyway, it's not a big deal, but it's one thing to keep in mind when you're ordering parts. But from Rock River Arms, I ordered this little batch of items here. Got the receiver extension, the action spring. This is the buffer tube assembly. Yeah, that's the butt cap spacer. Here's the buffer assembly, the forward assist kit. Oh, that's odd. But sometimes I would see something that I thought was a good price and I would go ahead and order it. But for the main part, this was and there's an ejection port door kit. So I guess I didn't keep it grouped perfectly well, but that order itself was, 65 bucks. So I would do things as I had the extra cash. So that's the buffer tube assembly and all that. And you can go watch that video. It worked out pretty well. One thing to keep in mind when you're ordering a buffer tube is it's stock specific. So if you have a fixed butt stock like this, you'll want the buffer tube made for like the A2 style. If you've got a collapsible stock, order that. But the collapsible stock buffer tube will not work with this wood butt stock or any other fixed butt stock. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I almost made that mistake. Now here's my one big order. This was a lot of stuff to do with the barrel. And I ordered a magazine, this AR Stoner magazine. It's a 20 rounder. The barrel, 5.56. Government, it's a 20-inch government style. And that's basically, the A2 style. And the other thing to keep in mind is your barrel length. If you're ordering parts like I did, I had to get a 20-inch barrel. I wanted a 20-inch barrel, but that worked out because my foregrip, my handguards work with the 20-inch barrel. So just something else to keep in mind. All these parts are everything you would need to order to build this piece by piece. You go down, you got the front sight gas block, the front sight post, the detents, the detent spring, the taper pins, the handguard cap, which is this cap here, and there's the sling swivel, the barrel snap ring, which all that is in here. There's a snap ring and a spring in there. All that is on here. The weld spring, that's the spring that makes this, flex back and forth, so you can take that off. Your delta ring, your front swivel roll pin, front swivel rivet, sling rivet. So all that stuff, I actually ordered. All these are individual parts. And I got a front sight post with a bayonet lug on it, which I thought was kind of cool. Who's going to have an AR without a bayonet lug, right? So anyway, that was pretty involved, and I did end up, in the video, the last video, you can see I got a gunsmith who helped me at the last minute to drill these pins through, because you actually have to index the barrel these pins here actually go through and make a little notch in the barrel, and that's what keeps this front sight post straight. And to be honest with you, one of the most nerve-wracking things for me was going through the stress of wondering if the hole in this gas block area was lined up with the hole in the barrel, because we were basically just eyeballing it. So we eyeballed it, and then we put it in the vise in the drill press and basically drilled out these holes. So, you know, you can get out to the range and fire off your first shot and have a foobar going on there if you're not careful. So that's why I got a gunsmith to help me with that. Plus, I'm going to recommend to people, if you're going to order a barrel and it's an A2 style, I would go ahead and order it with this front sight post on there. It's much easier. The problem I had was I couldn't find a 20-inch barrel that was chrome lined, that was 20-inch, that had all of this stuff already made up on it. They were all going to be back ordered, and I still wouldn't have it. So in my case, I'm happy I went with all the individual parts. But in your case, if you got a little extra time and you can find a barrel that's already got this attached and all these pins are already drilled out, then I would recommend that, just as a general note there. So okay, moving right along here, the last items that I got in were this young manufacturing bolt carrier group, phosphate bolt carrier group complete, and the Bravo company gunfighter tactical charging handle, and that was $215. You can certainly buy a more expensive bolt carrier group. I found that out. You can spend $300 easy just on a bolt carrier group. But by the time I got to here, you can see I was quite had already spent some money. And by the way, this order was $339.27. So that's basically the barrel and all the components. That was basically all the components for the barrel back to the receiver, except for the fore-end. Okay, so here are the tools, and I was trying not to include these in the price, but it looks like I've accidentally included them up here because you may or may not have these tools. So there's one tool, the barrel nut indexing pen, which I would recommend. It seems kind of expensive, but you can go back in the last video and you'll see we use that to index the gas tube going into the receiver to make it sure it was all lined up, because the gas tube is kind of flimsy, and if you're always jamming that thing in there to see if it's lined up, you may end up bending it. So you want that to be all perfectly aligned before you start jamming that gas tube in there, and that tool helps you do that. And of course, here's the wrench and a torque wrench, which is duplicated up here. So anyway, I'm going to call this $1,100, and I don't know, by the time you see this file, it'll be fixed, and you'll know what the exact cost is. But as far as final thoughts, I'm really happy that I went through this experience. I've had the experience of building this AR piece by piece, literally. There were no pieces that I'm not familiar with, and I really feel like I'm familiar with the action of this rifle now and how it works and how everything goes together. And one thing that's important about that is I don't know if you know this, but I just got my NRA basic rifle instructor certification, and I'm going to be teaching new shooters like scouts and youth, probably 18 and under, just because I'm not that great of an instructor, but my goal is to inspire youth to get into the shooting sports, and I want to start doing some videos based on that. The reason I mention that, and the only reason I mention it, is not to sort of brag, but only to say one of my goals for building this AR with the wood furniture was to create more of a sporting rifle in lieu of a quote assault rifle, because I'd like to be able to show parents that, you know, here's a 5.56 rifle, a 223 rifle that is a sporting rifle that their kids can have fun with and learn to master and learn, you know, all of the intricate details of this rifle, but also not be, you know, pigeonholed with this assault rifle thing where, you know, they're afraid to let their friends, because I've run into this before, where people have asked me, aren't you afraid to let people see you shooting, you know, these assault rifles, and you have a son and all. It's just, you know, it's a very deep subject. And so I said, well, you know, wouldn't it be neat? First, I love wood and steel, but wouldn't it also be neat to have a sporting rifle that you can show these kids, that goes along with, you know, the 1022 and the other rifles that would help to eliminate that sort of assault rifle image, and it's more of a sporting and target rifle. So anyway, this video is probably longer than I meant for it to be, but those are my final thoughts, and I didn't think it would do much good to do a whole video series and not include some information on my goals for this rifle and intent for it, and also the parts list and the cost. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this series, and I'll try to include just a little bit of video of the first shots that came out of it. So thanks a lot, guys.
I flushed. It works.